Hello, everyone. Welcome for our study today, Spiritism Inspiring Lives. All of us who are here, those who may be coming join us through our channels, YouTube and Facebook, and also Web Rádio Fraternidade. To start our study, we ask Thais to facilitate our prayer, please.
Let's close our eyes, unite our minds and hearts, thanking God for this opportunity to be here today once more, aiming to learn, to better ourselves, to reflect in our values, in our attitudes, in our behaviors. Learn with the help of the Enlightened Spirits and through Jesus' message, through Jesus' teachings, and understand a little bit more about ourselves as well through these reflections. And we ask as well the enlightened spirits that are here with us, preparing this ambient, preparing and blessing this group to help us with the understanding, with the reflections, to guide us through this study. And in this way, we ask permission to start. So be it.
So be it. Once more, welcome to everyone. Today, in our study, Spiritism Inspiring Lives, we are reflecting or focusing on the theme humility. Surely, myself and all of us still are in the learning process of developing this great virtue which helps in our evolution pathway. In order for us to do our reflections, we have some questions which we'll go through then and bring our participation. The first question is, what does humility mean? I leave it to Thais to start to develop it.
So, humility, we're talking here about humbleness, and we're not talking in a sense of ranking low in a society scale or living in misery. We're talking about one of the most important achievements, virtue to achieve, which is humbleness. And those who manage to actually conquer this virtue can accept without embarrassment the duty of labor, accept that we are here to serve in benefit of all. And many times we used to show off what we have or what we can do and things like that. And the humble being wouldn't be showing off, let's put that way. When I was reflecting about humility, and I was trying to reflect how can the humility be presented in the poor and in the rich, for example. And I think when the humbleness, this humility is presented in the poor, is presented in a way that he or she accept this situation that they find themselves into with resignation. And the rich would know how to make use of his wealth in favor of others, not just in favor of himself, so in favor of the ones that are more close to them. And understand that above all, this humbleness, this humility is the actual treasure, isn't it? Is the spiritual treasure. Is the one that actually remain with us when we leave this material body. It also makes me reflect that humility is part of us, is in us, is inherited since the creation of the spirit. It's like a component, a spark of the divine love in us. And as everything else that is part of us is also subject to all the laws of human evolution towards one aim, which is perfection. So I think understanding humility comes from the recognition of our position in life and in the universe, and also always having in mind that we are immortal beings in this infinite universe. And with humility, we can see ourselves as apprentice and see how much we still have to learn and how much our sisters and brother, can help us in this process. I'll pass it to you and Severina.
For me, humility, the question being, what does humility mean? Apart from what you already said, is the ability that all of us learn gradually to forgive, to forget the shortcomings of others, because in order to do that, we need to, it's almost like melt or dissolve our egocentric way of being. What does humility mean? It means the ability to cooperate towards the good of everyone, everywhere where God places us, and not only in this existence, but all the existences and throughout the existences where we are. What does humility mean? For me, again, according to the gospel, according to Spiritism, means also the ability which the spirit already learns to develop to resignate according to God's will, the ability to be obedient according to God's law. And God's law is important to understand. They are not outside us, they are within. It's all how we potentialize ourselves. So it's more humble. We become, we practice, we train, we exercise ourselves. We stimulate within ourselves more the virtuous aspects of ourselves or the higher potentials. But it's merely not to be who we aren't and not to be less who we are. We are children of God, created by God, essentially beings of goodness. We still are bringing our shadows, but we are on the pathway of perfecting ourselves, and that job belongs to each soul. So what does it mean? Humbleness means to embrace myself, my journey, my history as I am, from the departing point, from the self level onwards, that essentially I'm a good person because I have been created by God. But in this stage, I also open up to understand what are my strengths that I conquered so far, which surely need to be extended and expanded, and what are my shadows, which I fully take responsibility and to promote, to change, to actualize. So it's almost like choosing to work towards the pathway in the center, detaching more from the extremes. Severine, anything else to add?
Well, you actually said it all, but just from what is written here, it tells me that this is one of, maybe I'm wrong, one of the most important virtues, because it say you cannot be charitable to your neighbor without being humble. So even love, as we all know, they're all correlated to each other, all the virtues, but it looks like this one is one of the crucial one.
Yes, and when we take into account to develop what charity means for us, really, as you said rightly, without learning to be humble, we have challenging to exercise or to practice benevolence towards each other. We will find it challenging to be indulgent towards each other. We find it challenging to forgive because we still are dealing with our superior complex, which actually is hiding the inferior complex. And as more as we do understand this discrepancy within us through the proposal of self-love, and we choose to actualize ourselves, surely we become more, through learning to be humble, more flexible and more easy to adjust and adapt. Should we move on then to the second one? The second question says, where can we find truly examples of humility?
Wow, the perfect and greatest example, it would be in Jesus, definitely. Our beloved Master, isn't he was the perfect example of humility. He came from the spiritual world accepting a simple family, a humble home. He did not come amongst the rich or the powerful. according to our materialist point of view, isn't it? Um, and he lived amongst the poor, comforting those who were suffering. And he left us so many examples, so many lessons of humility throughout his existence. And we can also mention, well, I could think about other names as well that has also left some examples of humility. For example, Gandhi, Socrates, or Maria, mom of Jesus, isn't it? Chico Javier, which was a very humble Brazilian medium. And there's so many others.
Mother Teresa of Calcutta?
Yes, definitely, definitely. There's so many of us, of spirits that have come to earth to actually help us with examples of how can we exercise this virtue, and nature itself as well, isn't it? Because it demonstrates to, for example, the fruit that feed us, the animals that work for us without waiting for rewards, without pride. The water even that help us to clean our body that we need. So there's so many examples of humility to help us to develop this virtue and become humbler, diminish, like you said, gradually the pride and the selfishness that we still find in us. And taking to what Severina said about being the most important virtue, as if we think about what is the opposite of humility, isn't it? So selfishness and pride and all vanity, all that lead us to so many imperfections and tribulations, and we can't really diminish all these vices without being able to exercise gradually the humility, the humbleness on us. And then we will be developing other virtues, as you said, being able to forgive, patience, kindness, charity, and so on. So there is the examples of humility that I could think of.
I think with all the examples that you mentioned, surely there are so many others, as you also said, well said. Surely there always has been beings, humble beings in the universe helping us as humanity to guide and move forward. It is important to understand, apart from what you said, as more we learn to be humble, more we learn to serve everyone with all the names that you mentioned, and the master is Jesus of all of them and all of us. They all were beings who dedicated their whole lives serving others without exemption. There is also a learning that we can introject and reflect about, and because we are responsible how much we choose in this existence to develop this higher faculty. But in my way, when I look around all of those beings, my brothers and sisters in humanity who are much more advanced than I am, they all show through practice, through the way of living, not through saying, to serve others. That was their dedication. Is almost like following the steps of Christ as he did. Always bear in mind, Jesus is the master, but they also are much more advanced than I am or we are. So when we mirror ourselves and choose to promote ourselves through actions, because our challenging is when it comes to the practice, that is really where we will be breaking old systems and old patterns within us. Okay, should we move on to the next one then? The third question for us to reflect on is, why is it important to develop this virtue, humbleness?
We always want to know why and have the recipe, don't we?
Yes, we want to have it that someone tells us A, B,
Yes,
C,
of
yeah.
course. Or how do I do it? Or can you do it for me?
Mhm. Please do. Please do the work so that I end up being humble. Yeah.
Of course. So I'll quote the Enlightened Spirits here, and they teach us that selfishness, pride, and lust are passions that drag us down to our animal nature, keeping us enslaved to matters I think we could stop here and answer the question, why is it important that we develop this virtue, isn't it? I think humility is important for our mental health as well, emotional equilibrium, and our progress as spirits. As I mentioned before about pride, vanity, and selfishness, which are the vices opposed to humility, are our wounds, isn't it? The wound of humanity. And it's an illusion that we can be happy without receiving the help of others, of our brothers and sisters. It's when we think only about ourselves, when we consider ourselves more better than most people or better than anyone else. And behaving this way, we miss so many opportunities to actually progress, to evolve, to be assisted and to assist. Um, so pride with vanity are based in transitory things, as we know, and until the day that will come and we'll have to leave this world, leave this material body, and we'll leave everything behind. So these are the transitory elements, isn't it? Then we're going to realize, as we learned with the spirits, of how many spirits has gone back to the spiritual world, left this body, and regret the time they wasted, isn't it? Like caring for all these material things and pride and selfishness, isn't it? And not worrying about developing, using the time given to us by God to develop these virtues. Um, so I think humility, why is important, is crucial. I would change for the word important so we can construct an adequate society, establishing everyone's duty, awakening our sentiments, coming out of the indifference, isn't it? Awakening the sentiment of gratitude, and mobilizing this sincere charity that was mentioned before, loving one another, caring for one another, without waiting for rewards, developing our sense of fraternity, and above all, doing what Jesus came to teach us to do, isn't it? Develop the love that a more mature love, because the love we have is so immature still, and with that develop all virtues, isn't it? That's the aim. And gradually, it's not going to happen overnight. Gradually, exercising daily, with sincere will, isn't it? I'm sure we will. We can do it. We gave so many examples of spirits that are already more evolved than we are, but they also went through the less evolved time on their existences, on their life, and they chose to the better and to better themselves, and developing humility, for example.
I would just add in mine, apart from what you said, why is it important to develop humility? I would simply say, in order for me to learn to be happy. Because the lack of humility is behind the unhappiness, the unfulfillment, the lack of purpose in existence. So it's very important for me why to develop humility or humbleness in order for me to really truly feel happy as it is possible on earth. And that we also learn with those who are ahead of us. Happiness doesn't mean that I don't have challenges, but because humbleness or humility only develops when I learn to take fully responsibility for my life, and I don't depend or require that others do things, that I stand up and do that. Then I stimulate, I promote the higher faculties. It surely starting with learning to be humble. But for me, these virtues, they are interconnected. There is no way that I can learn to be humble without taking responsibility. Responsibility is the internal autonomy, the resource that God gave to me in germ for me to promote and evolve myself as much as I choose to, in order to be happy according to the universal laws and not according to human transitory references. And that is a choice that all of us do on daily basis, on daily existence, in the experiences that we attract in order to interact from a different perspective. Then we move on to the last one. How do we know if we are conquering humbleness? Mm. Thais will tell us now.
Well, I think as any other virtue, as I said before, we won't be able to achieve this overnight. Is the result of um, exercise, daily exercise, continue exercise, starting with more small things, I would say, and it
Such
can be
as?
difficult. Sorry?
Such as?
Well, at work, for example, at home, even at home, let's start closer than work. Let's be humble at home, and which is already a huge challenge, isn't it?
Is our lab of
Yeah,
training.
yeah, yeah. So it's um I think any with any other virtues, what I try to do is like, to me, for example, it's to know the self-awareness, because sometimes I have vices that I don't even realize I have, and I can't really improve something if I don't know that needs to be improved, isn't it? So knowing myself to start with, I think it's the start point, being honest and accept that I'm still pride. I can still, a lot of times, be quite selfish. And knowing that there are different levels of prideness and selfishness as well. At some aspects of my existence, I can be more selfish than other aspect, or more pride than other aspect. So it's knowing where and recognize where that happens, so then I can decide, I can choose, no, I want to change, I want to do different, I want to exercise humbleness and means, and on this situation with that person, with myself. For example, I also think that when I start thinking about this, and be more vigilant about my attitude and how I feel as well, I notice that when I'm being proud or selfish, I feel tense, I feel anxious or sad or empty after the situation, for example, or frustrated. Um,
Or
and-
angry or
Sorry?
resentful.
Yes, yeah.
Resentful. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then when I choose to exercise humility, when I choose to, put my pride down, put my head down, or close my mouth, or um, any exercise that I choose to do, I feel better. I feel the change. I
Mm-hmm.
become happier, as you
Like
mentioned before,
that.
lighter, happy with
Mm-hmm.
life. I complain less. I see things, even through tribulations that we all go through. Um, I can go through them better. I'm not saying I won't feel any pain, but the suffering is less.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
So
so,
so may I just come into this? When you say that the suffering is less, is because our resistance or egoistic resistance is diminishing.
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. So, though I think we all still far from living humility continually, and I can talk by myself about myself, we can always strive to live it daily, even if it's for a few moments of every day. And as we exercise that, we get better and better with that, isn't it? And I want to close my reflections on this with these questions from the, not question, but message from the Spirit in the Gospel. And now just the beginning there, where the Spirit says, my friends, my brothers and sisters, awaken. Let the voices of the Spirit echo in your hearts. Be generous and charitable without ostentation. That is to say, do good with humility. Let each one, little by little, begin to demolish the altars erected by everyone to their pride. In a word, if you are a true Christian, you will possess the kingdom of truth. And I think that says us all, isn't it? It tells us why it's important to develop this virtue. How do we know if we have developed this virtue, isn't it? And how can we be happy as well? Because everyone is searching for happiness, but are we searching in the right place? Isn't it?
Yes, when we search through the ego state of mind, then usually we have moments of illusion, which we call happiness, and years or centuries of pain and suffering to conquer the real happiness. So, as more humble we become, we can learn to discern better and see that all of us are within and under the law of cause and effect. And whatever we do, it activates this law. And as more as we discern, because of our own development, we also make choices that impact our destinies in a better way, in a healthier way, in a more harmonious way, merely because we take responsibility for our existences. Without responsibility, we will not be able to develop humbleness, because we still will be always in this ego state with my rights, and I haven't learned about my duties. Because humbleness means that I open my consciousness, my heart and understanding. Without fulfilling my duties, there is no way that I can be really truly happy, neither at peace. And that starts in simple actions and behaviors, starting at home, how we explored here throughout, and so many other examples that we still have. So it's all within, and let's take these reflections so that we can boost our humbleness within, that we stimulate us within, always learning. Be responsible means expanding the choices that we have within, the inner power which comes from the essence, the sacred aspect of us. And in that way, we are diminishing the excuses and the lies or the wrong conditions and belief systems that we developed, and now we are actualizing because we freely, spontaneously are choosing to be more honest with us. Because without honesty, it's not possible to be humble either. So there's a lot of things that we are working constantly in this existence and beyond it. And not only us who are in the flesh, in the physical body, but all of those who are with us in the spirit is studying as well, because the natural laws are equal for all of us everywhere. And in that way, we are coming to the end of our study today, inviting you for us together finalize with our prayer. As we are joining our hearts through the feelings of fraternity and brotherhood, with sincerity wishing us the best for all of us. And in these unique moments, as we embrace us in a love or in a loving way, may we also pray for all of those who may be connected with us in one way or another, wishing them well, praying so that they may also reach inner peace in their journeys, in their unique way of being, in their unique way of evolving, asking the Enlightened Spirits to bless us all wherever we are and with who we are, that we gradually, with their help, choose to raise our minds up, focusing beyond the matter as we journey within the material reality. Understand and perceive ourselves as immortal beings, beings essentially of love and goodness, who are here once more granted to be the possibility for us to promote us spiritually. Let's choose for all of us in this great school of learning to select our thoughts, choosing thoughts that refer to universal brotherhood, thoughts that refer to forgiveness as many times as needed, of humbleness. Develop the ability to silence whenever our internal torments emerge, and redirecting according to our higher self. We also pray for all of those who may be suffering through the lack of humbleness, asking that the governor of earth may also bless them all. We pray for all of those who are departing from earth, returning to the spiritual world without the knowledge and the blessings of humbleness. May your feelings of love also reach them all. We also pray for all of those in spirit who are with us or connected with us, asking that Jesus may also enlighten and bless them all. And we sincerely wish them well, that we all, ourselves and them, can move forward, choosing the pathway of light, of love, as we are invited for more than 2,000 years. Love one another, today, tomorrow, and always. So be it. Much peace to all of those who have been with us, inviting also those who want to join us tonight in our Portuguese study at 8 p.m. Feel welcome. Otherwise, we are now ending this sort of studies in this week before Christmas, but we will be engaging from the 18th onwards. So therefore, next week we also have lectures, studies, reflections in English every day from the 19th onwards, 7 p.m. Everyone is welcome. Otherwise, we wish you well, much peace to all, and hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.